Hi, everyone. I'm going to be doing the compatibility chart between Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake. I know that she wrote a memoir, and I haven't read the book, but I decided to go over their compatibility chart to see what I found. So if anybody has read the book and finds any interesting details that coincide with my analysis, let me know. His Nessus and Sappho conjuncts her north node, 2 degrees and 1 degree. Nessus is the last asteroid that you want conjuncting your north node from anyone, because that has to do with abuse. Sappho also conjuncts her north node, and that has to do with eroticism. So I think that he wasn't very nice to her. I don't know if she's ever going to come out and specifically say, and I never really followed the both of them too closely, but I don't think that he was a very nice person towards her. Her pan and grieve conjuncts his north node, 0 degrees and 2 degrees. And so the theme of the relationship for him basically was her music, and there was grieving involved for him. And pan also has to do with not only music, but partying. So that was really the basic theme. There's not a lot of, right off the bat, I didn't really see anything nice or romantic or lovey-dovey between the two of them. She says that she loved him, and I believe that, but I think that it was very like a puppy love sort of situation, not a deep, long-term mutual true love, obviously. Her point of fortune conjuncts his Attica and Lucifer, 2 degrees. And the point of fortune looks like a circle with a cross in the middle, and it magnifies the energies of whatever it conjuncts. And in this case, his Attica and Lucifer. To me, this signifies that he felt trapped in this relationship with her. And not only that, Lucifer has to do with pride and arrogance. And so this to me can also tie back to Nessus, because Lucifer is like, you're an arrogant person, and you have a lot of pride, and you can be very condescending. So I don't know him personally, but I'm just telling you what the chart says. Her Chiron and Typhoon conjuncts his midheaven, 2 degrees. Chiron brings pain to the other person in regards to what angles it's conjuncting or the luminaries, which is the most important. So in this case, since her Chiron is conjuncting his midheaven, these energies are out in the open. So eventually you saw the pain between the two of them. And her Typhoon is conjuncting his midheaven as well. And this has to do with overwhelming psychological effects on him as well as her, since her Chiron is also conjuncting her Typhoon natally. That means that there's a lot of psychological events in her life that creates turmoil and a strong, overwhelming emotional response. And I think that's pretty evident. But like I said, since it's conjuncting his midheaven, this came out in the open between the two of them, and those energies played into their relationship. His pan conjuncts her vertex, 0 degrees. And the vertex is another really important point in a compatibility chart. It's like a second ascendant. So his pan conjuncting her vertex at 0 degrees, that's what also he brought into the relationship, is there was partying and there was music. Because in Greek mythology, there's three, there's Pan, Dionysus, and Bacchus, and they were all buddies, and they had wine and merriment and partying and that sort of thing. But Pan also played music, so that's how this ties into the relationship. Her Dejanira conjuncts his vertex, 0 degrees, and Dejanira has to do with victimhood. So she brought victimhood into this relationship. Her rest in peace asteroid conjuncts his child, 3 degrees. Wow. Right here, indications of her having an abortion, because rest in peace is self-explanatory and it's conjuncting his child, 3 degrees. Now, I'm going to get to the cheating part shortly because I know that there were accusations on both sides saying that he said that she cheated, she said that he cheated. I think that she actually admitted to kissing someone, but I'll get to that shortly. His Venus, Eros, conjuncts her south node, Lacrimosa, child, and Venus. All of these asteroids and the personal planets here, there's his Venus is conjuncting her Venus. This is an excellent conjunction to have between two people because it shows this common ground of love between the two of you. However, there's asteroids involved here, and it's very important because it tells a story. His Venus in Eros has to do with eroticism, and that also ties back to the Sappho asteroid conjuncting her north node. Venus and Eros conjuncts her south node, so these energies came into the relationship as well. But it's also, that planet and asteroid is also conjuncting her Lacrimosa, child asteroid, and Venus. Lacrimosa has to do with tears and crying, and I'm talking about a lot of tears. It's not like, here and there. It's a sobbing sort of situation, and it's very strong, and it has to do with the child that she terminated, because Lacrimosa is holding hands with the child asteroid, and it's holding hands with her Venus as well, and that's a love planet. His Pluto squares her child and Lacrimosa. Now, Pluto is the modern ruler of death, but it also signifies passion and strength and evolution. And since it's squaring her child, he had power over her decision to terminate the pregnancy, and there was a lot of tears involved. Her moon conjuncts his south node, Sun, Poseidon, and Bilk. Her moon conjuncting his south node, that's a very strong indication of a past life connection. And since her moon is conjuncting his sun, this can mean a best friends aspect. Every single chart that I've ever done where there's a moon-sun conjunction, I've always seen problems in the relationship. And I think that the moon-sun conjunction in a compatibility chart, to me, is overrated because it can be really problematic. Now, her moon is also conjuncting his Poseidon. That has to do with cheating. Poseidon was Zeus's brother. They're both prolific cheaters, so this is a guaranteed cheating aspect. And his Bilk is also conjuncting her moon, and Bilk has to do with taking advantage of someone, usually financially, because if Bilk is conjuncting your sun, that person will take advantage of you strongly financially, but it's conjuncting her moon, so that means that he took advantage of her emotionally. His Pholus conjuncts her Bilk, Nemesis, swindle, and it's in the 6th house. Pholus is a very strong energy. It's like a mini Jupiter, and it explodes the energies of whatever it makes a conjunction to. And since it's conjuncting her Bilk and Nemesis and swindle, this has to do with taking advantage of the other person. There's lies here, and also betrayal and possible cheating. But since all these asteroids are conjuncting his Pholus at 0 degrees, there's a guaranteed deception. And it's in the 6th house, and that has to do with her work. So I don't think she's telling the whole story between the two of them. I don't know if she's going to bring it up in the book, but it's written right here in the chart. And the chart tells me that there was deception, lies, and cheating on both sides. Her Casanova conjuncts his ascendant 3 degrees. Again, cheating. Casanova is like the sweet talking ladies' man, thrill of the chase, but it can also pertain to women. And since it's conjuncting his ascendant, that's what she brought into the relationship. Her Dolores and Jupiter conjuncts his Lilith, 1 degree and 2 degrees. Dolores has to do with grieving and pain. And Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system and magnifies these energies. And since Dolores and Jupiter are conjuncting his Lilith, this means in the beginning that there was a very strong sexual connection between the two of them because Lilith has to do with raw sexuality. However, Dolores is also holding hands with Jupiter. So eventually, there was no sex between the two of them. And I've seen this before, and it always plays out. And there was depression involved with this sudden decline in their sexual intimacy between the two of them because her Dolores and Jupiter is also conjuncting his Deprez asteroid by 2 degrees. So there's a depression here that happened after the ending of their intimacy. And I'm thinking it probably had to do with the termination of her pregnancy because it ties back into the lacrimosa, the crying, the tears, conjuncting her child. His Jupiter and Saturn conjuncts her Attica 1 degree. And I also explained the energies of Attica. It's like being in prison or being trapped. And since his Jupiter is conjuncting Attica, she did feel trapped, but she couldn't get out of the relationship. And I don't think that she really wanted to because his Saturn is also conjuncting her Attica, and this puts a binding effect on the energy of that asteroid. So I want to get to some planetary aspects here. His moon conjuncts her Neptune 0 degrees, and that has to do with there's a fogginess and deception going on here. Since her Neptune is conjuncting his moon, this can bring a very foggy energy into the relationship and deception. Sometimes it can also mean a psychic connection and a fantasy-like ethereal quality. But Neptune is, for the most part, you don't know what to expect from the other person. You can't quite understand where they're coming from. And since it's conjuncting his moon at 0 degrees, which is the tightest orb, he felt he didn't know, couldn't quite pin her down. And maybe that's really why he ended the relationship. His Neptune squares her Mars 0 degrees. And that also is, there's lots of deception here again. And the square with Mars, this relationship definitely wasn't a good one, especially for a long lasting. I mean, there are some Saturn aspects here that could possibly have kept it together, but for the most part, it was based on a very sexual tie. And there, like I said, eroticism and puppy love and that sort of thing going on. His Venus trines her Mars 2 degrees, and that's very strong for a sexual compatibility and a pull between the two of them. But it's not like it doesn't really coincide with a very strong emotional connection because they don't have any moon connections between the two of them. And I've explained this before. I'm a very big fan of the moons. If you don't have positive moon aspects between the two of you, ultimately, you really won't be happy, and you won't have a very soul to soul connection unless you have strong backups that can help to keep the relationship together and have happiness. Because I have seen it before, but you, like I said, you have to have really strong backups between the two of you, and they don't. And also, his Venus squares her Pluto 0 degrees, and his Pluto squares her Venus 0 degrees. So this is a double whammy. When you have Pluto squaring Venus, again, there's a friction involved here that can't hold the two people together because they have basically different ideas of love. And Pluto squaring Venus is one of the most painful aspects to have for breakups. It's just very emotionally taxing and painful, and they're double whammies. Both of these, the Venus square Pluto and Pluto square Venus, are both at 0 degrees. So this was an automatic indication that this relationship was not going to last. So that's all I have, and I hope you enjoyed this interpretation. And I'm going to be back soon with more Synastry charts. Hit the subscribe button if you're interested. Have a nice day.